I'm Commissioner Pavri, Shireen Pavri, and my colleague joining me is Commissioner Danette Brown. And I'd like to call the April 9th, 2025 Ad Hoc Committee meeting to order. Will the recording secretary please take roll?
Danette Brown.
Here.
Shireen Pavri.
Present.
Brown Yusof. We have a quorum.
Alrighty. So the item before us today is the interview, recommendation, and appointment of members for the Committee on Accreditation. Our task today is to recommend to the full commission 3 individuals to fill the upcoming vacancies on the Committee on Accreditation. 1 vacancy is for the K-12 position. The other 2 are for higher education positions, each of whom would be appointed for a 4-year term from July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2029. In addition, we may, if we wish, recommend appointment of any of the applicants to the alternate pool to serve in the event of a vacancy on COA. The full commission will then vote on our recommendations on Friday during item 2H. Cheryl Hickey will take us through the process. Ms. Hickey, let's begin.
Thank you, commissioners, and thank you for spending a minute today out of your schedule to volunteer to do this work. As you mentioned earlier, the plan is to choose 3 individuals from the 6 finalists that are before you today for appointment to the Committee on Accreditation. The commission engages in this activity every April. Last year we did it in June because we didn't have enough applicants. But this year you are to, as we said before, to consider putting forward 2 individuals for the post-secondary position and 1 for the K-12 position. You may also recommend anybody for the alternate pool, and Executive Director Mary Sandy chooses from that pool when there is an unexpected vacancy to fill out the remainder of that term. The application process is outlined for you on page 4. I'm sure you've read it already. We have a nominating panel that is appointed by both the commission chair and the COA chairs. And that their names are listed also on page 4. So they ranked the finalists, and those are the ones going forward for you today. The applications, we always have to look based on A through D, that's in section on page 3 and 4. Those are the areas that the education code says we must have representation on the COA. And you'll see that the remaining committee members fulfill all of those areas. So it gives you some flexibility in choosing today. So that's great. And basically we've outlined just to remind you what the Committee on Accreditation does on page 4. So you can have a sense of that. You 2 both are very veteran, so you know what they do. And then lastly, I think that we've included the criteria for the membership on COA, that they don't represent their employing agency, that they are chosen for their expertise in education in general, educator preparation, or K-12 education. So with that, we have these 6 individuals that were put forward by the nominating committee. So we've given them 15 minutes. This morning, we gave them a copy of the questions so that they had a little bit of time to think about their answers. And we gave them the Zoom link, of course. So we have the first one that we've asked to show up at virtually at 2:10. And that gives you also a 5-minute in between each one. Stretch your legs or do what you need to do. And then you'll go through it and you can talk about them all at one time at the end of the process. I think that's it. Do we have Jessica, our first person?
Yeah.
Not yet? Okay. She will probably be hopping on, I hope. Okay, well, do you have any questions? No, great. Thank you.
So I think this is when I ask for public comment, yes?
Yes, you actually yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ms. Hickey. So we will now open for public comment. Members of the public who are attending the meeting at the commission office will need to submit a request to address the commission card. Meeting moderator, Individuals who join the meeting via teleconference, please notify the meeting moderator by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Not have any public.
The public comment period for this item is now closed.
I'm reading Jessica.
We have 6 finalists to interview for 3 vacancies. We will begin interviews with the 4 finalists for the 2 higher education vacancies, and then follow with the 2. That the executive director can pull from this pool for any unexpected vacancy. Good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Well, thank you. So should we dive in? Yes? Oh, good. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm Commissioner Pavri, and my colleague here is. We have 5 questions for you, so we're just going. I'll ask you the first 2 questions, and then perfect. Good. So the first question, if you would please summarize your professional experiences in educator motivation. We're interested in your teaching experiences, your work with diverse K-12 students or credential candidates, or issues usually focused.
I don't know if it's me or you, but I keep hear it's going in and out. So,
And
It-
one of the staff members just told me the same thing.
okay. I'm on my hotspot because my internet's been down all day, so I wasn't sure.
It sounds
Just
like
wanted-
it's us. It sounds
Okay.
like it's us. Shall I?
We need them.
I heard your question in and out, but I have the question, so I'm good if you want me to move forward.
Give us a moment. Let's see.
Okay.
It's the mic. We're in an ultra smart room that has mics above us. Except the sound.
I'm gonna try to switch a hotspot to see if that helps. Need a minute, please.
1 minute.
Trial run for tomorrow.
Would it turn on our Zoom mics? Would that cause confusion? Righty. Okay, so you have the question. So again, I'll just briefly summarize. We're interested in your teaching experiences, your work with diverse K-12 students or credential candidates, and or issues that you are especially focused on in your work. And I hope, can you hear us better?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful.
All right. I talk fast in general, so forgive me for doing that. I have over 25 years experience altogether in education. So I have 15 years in K-12. 2 years were spent in Palm Springs. I actually taught 2 years, and it was it was the first, I guess it was called extended day, full day kindergarten that they had in California through the Reading First grant. So it was for at-risk kindergartners at the time when we determined that through testing. So that was my very first experience in teaching altogether. That grant had ran out, so I actually went to Compton Unified School District, and I spent 13 years in Compton, inner city Los Angeles. And I started in first grade. Worked my way up. I have a dual credential, so I have a K-8 credential and a math authorization. So math was a huge need at that time. And so I helped the district actually develop, it was MESA at the time, so Math, Engineering, Science, and Assessment, which is now our STEM. So I helped design that program for the entire district. And I actually worked with students after school in a SAFE program with the MESA. So SAFE is, well, we had it, I worked at Roosevelt, and we were a year, oh my gosh, it was like a year 7 school at the time. It was a very, well, you know what those are. So it was a year 7. So we had a safe school grant where we had additional monies to work with students from after school until 7 p.m. And so I worked after school until 7 p.m. and I worked with school, with them on MESA at the time. So we integrated that. So I did that. I worked my way up through all the grades. I was a vice principal. I was a, curriculum specialist with ELD and math. And then I worked as a district administrator for the ELD department, and I helped design the Universal Access and SEDI program. At the time, we had 82% of our teachers who were not CLAD or ELD certified to teach. We had a lot of Teach for America teachers and others. So the Universal Access was a way to help the teachers become certified through the coach of coaching. So we certified coaches, and then they would go to the school sites and train the teachers who would then become coaches, and so on and so forth. So I did that for them. And then I was also for 10 years a professional development provider through UC Irvine through their Irvine Math and Science project. And we worked with Santa Ana teachers, Compton teachers, and Newport Mesa teachers, 3 struggling school districts. And we worked with new teachers primarily to help them build the capacity to work with their students, primarily focused on ELD learners. We gave them all the materials they needed to be successful. We went into the rooms and co-taught with them, gave them the lesson plans, everything to help them be successful, and then worked with them on weekends and throughout the year to give them, the extra support they needed to continue into the profession. And then I was a BITSA induction support provider for 8 years, and they had a special grant for professional development through BITSA. So I did that for 6 years. I've been in higher ed for 17 years, 13 full-time years. Oh my gosh, private, profit, nonprofit, you name it, Christian, public. Right now I'm at a private institution, UMass Global, which was formerly Brandman University, which was part of Chapman. been there 8 years, and I am currently an associate professor, and I am the program chair of our California credentialing program. So I oversee the multiple subject, single subject in our MAT programs, and I work very closely with our ed specialist programs and our ed leadership programs. So I just support all of our candidates. We have 1,400 students in our program right now, and we do have we just got a Teach for America partnership. So we are one of 2 schools in California with that. So we will be working very closely with them on that. I support our P3 probationary students, which means they need an added layer of support. They have probationary students means they haven't met the criteria, their 3.0 grade level or GPA. They've had some kind of crisis and they haven't been able to finish a course, or they've had a mental health crisis, something like that. So I work with them, and I work with all the students who need remediation for their Cal TPAs. So that's just kind of what I'm doing right now.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. So the next question, if you would summarize your involvement with the Commission's accreditation system first, and second, with any other accreditation entities such as WASC or CAPE or AQUIP or any other profession.
Yeah. So I worked with the Board of Institutional Reviewers for 8 years, ever since becoming actually involved with Brahmin / UMass Global. I've been a program reviewer, site visit reviewer. So I do 2 a year, primarily the program review in fall, site visit in spring. I usually don't do common standards, but specific programs. So I review past CAS, math authorizations, multiple subject, single subject, literacy authorizations, and then Poonam, forgive me, I don't know his last name, but often contacts me if he needs an initial program review, specifically for math from a district or an institution or unit. So he sporadically will just say, hey, Jessica, I need help with an initial review. Can you do this for me? So I get those throughout the year, and I jump on that and help support CTC with that. So I'm actually, before I got on here, I had a CTC background because I'm doing a site visit right now. Yep. So I had to change that before I came in here. I was like, oops. So
thank you for your service.
Thank you. I enjoy doing that. So I've did that for 8 years. I am the co-lead at my institution for CTC accreditation. And we just went through AQUIP, and I am the lead at our institution for AQUIP. I have been doing AQUIP since their inception, and I do site lead. I'm the lead on site visits for them. And I have done 8 in total in-person site visits for them. I just came back from one in New York actually last week, and we just went through our initial accreditation review 2 weeks ago. So just got through ours, and we're waiting our decision May 30th. It's quite a long time for, the stress. We have to just wait. But I do a lot of visits in-site or on-site, excuse me, and I have did 3 virtually for them now with their new initial accreditation reviews that they've just implemented. So I'm very involved with AQUIP as well. I have done WASC and CAPE. We are WASC accredited. However, I found that I'm much more aligned with AQUIP because of their flexibility in their collaboration. So our views, I quit doing CAPE and NAEP because of their very stringent and obedience viewpoints. But very excited to get back into AQUIP for national accreditation. And I serve on 2 induction advisory boards here in California, Napa Valley with Ron Ike, and Yuba City, who just went through CTC accreditation with Michelle Shofstall. I can never get her name, but I sat in on her CTC Accreditation Advisory Board site visit just I think it was last week or the week before, and they did get CTC accreditation for their induction program. So those are some things that I'm doing for CTC and accreditation in general.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I have the next question. As a prospective member of the Committee on Accreditation, what do you think are the most important things to look for in making an accreditation decision for an educator preparation program? And what would be your approach to making those decisions?
So I think that one of the most important things to look for is whether the teacher prep or educator prep program is meaningfully and purposefully preparing candidates to meet the needs of today's classrooms. And what I mean by that is that we have so many different types of students that come from culturally, linguistically, social, economically diverse backgrounds. Other examples might be homelessness, coming from different familiar structures, that we just need to make sure that they are supporting the students in learning about that, just regardless of what's happening right now in our political society, just making sure that we're supporting our candidates to make sure that our students out in the field are supported, as well as our teacher candidates. And a strong program should also comply, of course, with our standards. And I think demonstrating a clear commitment to equity, continuous improvement, and outcome-based practices is of equal importance. I also think that the program should be research-based, grounded in research-based practices, and have a strong clinical practice component and support structure for students, as I find in a lot of our visits that this is, as well as our own institution, is kind of weak in these areas, and they should be open to change. And how I would go about that is I would like to think that my approach in making a decision is based on principle and collaboration with those involved in the visit itself, and on the other side of things, those going through the process. So having both sides being in collaboration, we're all in it together and learning from one another. So their success is also our success. That's how I look at it. I would make sure that the evaluation depended on the evidence presented, give them opportunity to present evidence if needed. It's not like I got you like Kate. It's more of a supporting the colleagues process. And, you can't improve unless you're given the opportunity to improve. And also, making sure, seeing their reflectiveness, their responsiveness, and their forward thinking, not just meeting the minimal requirements, but seeing how they react to change in the needs of their faculty, their students, and the communities surrounding them. So coming from higher education, I completely understand the pressures that the programs face in higher education and in K-12. So that allows me to formulate more, I guess, informed questions while still holding programs and units, as CTC calls it, accountable for the standards, ensuring high quality teacher preparation.
Thank you. And what do you think is the most important issue facing educator preparation today in 2025, and why?
I think it's getting people into the field, and then once we get them into the field, keeping them here. This includes both teachers and those in teacher prep, so faculty, adjunct faculty, those supervising our people, and even those that are in the field accepting student teachers. I've found that working in our teacher prep program, this last 2 terms have been very difficult. almost begging people to take our student teachers. And then also finding supervisors that are willing to commit to observing our student teachers, our interns. There's been a shift there, the lack of motivation from both sides. So there's been a real increase in disengagement. That's, between what is required, the demands of the profession, and the support systems in place to help new teachers enter there and stay there. And I think that comes from also the administration and the colleagues in the field. I see this, it used to be just in high needs areas like special education, STEM, those areas, but I'm seeing it across even in K2, K3, K5 and middle school. It's just across the board now. So I think that it comes from the lack of support in all the areas, even at their own school sites. Here at UMass Global, we've been really intentional about designing our courses and our pathways to help support our working adults, career changers, paraprofessionals. We're seeking out grants who have that paraprofessional pathway and the grants that they have. We know that many of our candidates are juggling different priorities, families. So we've structured our coursework and clinical practices to be accessible. So accessibility is just important, but still maintaining that rigor. And then the profession itself is changing rapidly. And so the teacher preparation programs have to keep up with that change and evolve with it. Some are just being stagnant. So we need to make sure that they're willing to change. And it's not just about filling classrooms, but ensuring our schools are led by educators who are well prepared and ready to thrive in the profession.
Thank you. And the last question, is there anything else you would like to add that you think would be important for us to know as we consider your application for the COA?
I just want you to know I'm fully committed to accreditation, to California students, to California teachers. But my university is also very committed to the accreditation process and to our educators and students and communities. So they fully support what I'm doing and what you're doing. And so we would have that full backing if needed. And we're also fully in support of our PK-12 partners and other IHEs and communities. And our induction partners. And, so it's just a collaborative process in general with everybody. It's not like who can get more students or candidates or who can do this better. It's just really working together to find the best placement for people and candidates and who can fulfill the needs of the candidates at that time, or what structure would be best if they're best placed in, in Santa Ana's induction program or Yuba City's induction program, then we would just, support that. So it's all about that collaborative process. So, and it would just be an honor to serve in this capacity and kind of take my learning to the next level in accreditation. So, and just thank you for all these years of support in this process.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Take care.
Next candidate, Michelle.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're joining us. I'm Commissioner Shireen Pavri, And my colleague here is Commissioner Danette Brown, and we have a few questions for you, so we appreciate your being here. We have 5 questions. I believe you already have the questions as well.
Yeah.
So I will ask you the first 2 questions, and then Commissioner Brown will ask you the others.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Can you hear us fine?
I can. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes,
Perfect.
perfectly.
Great.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So our first question for you is if you would please describe your professional experiences in education and educator preparation in California. We're interested in your teaching experience or work with diverse K-12 students or credential candidates and or issues that you are especially focused on in your work.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I started my experience with educator preparation when I earned my own single subject teaching credential at Cal State Long Beach. And I'm a former high school teacher from Long Beach Unified, where I taught economics, government, and world and US history. Long Beach is an amazing district with spectacular diversity and complex diversity, and I think is fairly unique in the US. When I travel around, I often hear people say, oh, this is a very diverse community, but not like Long Beach. So kind of a big fan of Long Beach, sorry. And then I left teaching high school to go back to study California education policy, which is my focus. And I earned my PhD from USC in California education policy, with my focus is on California education policy and finance. And currently I am teaching, I teach classes on education policy to graduate students in their master's and PhD programs, as well as to students in their global educator leadership programs. And I teach social science methods to credential candidates with a focus on equity, culturally responsive practices, and evidence-based instruction. And I also currently serve as a director of policy, program improvement, and assessment and accreditation at Chapman University at the Atala College of Educational Studies. And in that role, I lead accreditation, assessment, and continuous improvement for all of our programs, including all of our educator preparation programs, which includes all of our teacher education programs, school counseling, and school psychology. I also supervise credential analysts, fieldwork staff, data teams, supporting credential candidates across multiple pathways. I lead efforts to make complex credentialing process in California. As we all know, it's a very complex process. I try to make it as clear and accessible to everybody, specifically, obviously, candidates, but also faculty, new faculty, and leadership within the university. I do this with multiple methods of communication, including one-on-one advising, written guidelines, group workshops, digital resources. I lead efforts in stakeholder engagement efforts, including with our community college partners and our TK-12 partners. And I design and support pathways for diverse paraprofessionals and community college students to enter and complete their teacher credential and master's programs. At Chapman, I created a Grow Your Own program where Santa Ana Unified employees could earn their MMSN credential for free at Chapman. So that's my summary.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would summarize your involvement with the Commission's accreditation system first, and second, any other accreditation entities that you may have worked with, WASC, EQUEP, CAPE, any other professional associations.
Sure. So as you can imagine, as the director of accreditation assessment and policy, I work with CTC and the Commission on a daily basis. My first job really is to interpret the Commission's decisions for the university, and then all the way down to our candidates, and making sure everybody understands what the Commission's decisions are and how we are going to be interpreting them at the university level, and as well as taking our feedback back up to the Commission. So I kind of I'm the liaison, so I work in both directions. And one example I could give you is the literacy certification process, which I'm not sure if you all recall that, but I do very clearly. So every single step of the way, from developing how Chapman University was going to react to the literacy certification process, down to every single syllabus, every single component, and then back all the way up and out to CTC, and working with them in the iterative process that is literacy certification. As well as right now working around modifications around the Cal TPA, and the LPA and the new math exam and how that's going to roll out and how our students are hearing, interpreting, and understanding these changes right now in the ground with the elimination of the RICA and bring in the LPA, and what are they going to do right now? How does that impact them right now? And making sure that they're supported and comfortable in a time of real change, right? And sometimes, because we have a commission process, it takes time for us to be able to give definitive answers to our candidates. So making sure that in that era of, real anxiety for them, that they're feeling comfortable and prepared for whatever the next steps are going to be. I also work, of course, as the liaison with WASC, NASC, CAPE, which is who we were accredited by, but we are moving to AQUEP and ISPA. And I'm the college representative and liaison with all of these entities, work with all of these entities and their standards. And I serve as a program reviewer for CTC. I have a review coming up. I'm also one for AQUEP. I was one with CAPE, and I am also one for WASC. And I contribute to all of the ways in which those changes and those policies impact all of our programs. I'm also the principal investigator on multiple research projects, including one on the impact of educator preparation programs on student learning outcomes. Because as we know in California, we don't have direct access to that evidence. So I do run multiple studies each year, developing and modifying in an iterative process the best ways to come up with that evidence, not just for teacher education, but for counseling and psychology as well.
Thank you. I have the next question for you. As a prospective member of the Committee on Accreditation, what do you think are the most important things to look for in making an accreditation decision for an educator preparation program? And what would be your approach to making those decisions?
It's a great question. So I think in making the decision, it needs to center on the evidence of the candidates, the support for the candidates leading to the candidate's competence. So not just looking at the candidate's competency outcomes alone, but the supports that are developed and leading to that support, into the candidate's competence. Program coherence and quality, a commitment to continuous improvement, and the equitable preparation of educators to serve in California's diverse TK-12 student population. And by that, I mean, not just that we're looking at, the outcomes are good, but who are the outcomes good for? And the context in which the program sits in, which I think is a very important component in every single preparation program sits in its own context. And it's so important to identify and understand that when you're making decisions. So, as a little blurb, like clear and measurable evidence, alignment between program design, coursework, clinical experiences, and candidate outcomes, a demonstration and commitment to continuous improvement throughout the meaningful way we use the data, evidence that programs are transparent, accessible, and supportive of all candidates, which is our favorite term in California, and compliance with, of course, CTC standards, and understanding, again, the context that it sits in, and all the while understanding that this is an iterative process. It is not a one time and we're done. Feedback, I can tell you as the Director of Accreditation and Assessment, feedback from CTC, the commission, and its staff have been invaluable to me. And being able to reach out and ask a question, hey, I don't understand this, or hey, we're struggling with this. Hey, does anybody have examples or ideas for this? That has made all the difference to me. And I try to do the same. So if I'm in meetings and somebody says, hey, do you have an example, or are you working on, we did this with literacy. I provided all of my literacy documentation as soon as I had it. Like, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is where I am now. And then my approach to decision-making will be guided by, I think, fairness and consistency, a collaborative, iterative, and evidence-based mindset, and a student-centered perspective for all students.
Very much. Next question. What do you think is the most important issue facing educator preparation today in 2025, and why?
So I think this is to recruit, prepare, and retain a diverse, well-supported educator workforce. I think that is absolutely true, but very difficult to achieve. We need lots of resources I think in order to create and support the non-traditional candidates that we need more affordable pathways. So while we can say like from the least expensive program to the most expensive program, sure, those are expenses, but life expenses. We need money to help support the candidates. When I think about teacher preparation, I get so frustrated because I think about in medical school, you get support, you get a job, you get paid. And that's what we need. We need more affordable, more inclusive pathways to support more non-traditional candidates, paraprofessionals. There's such a variety of ways that we can do this, but we need to expand that. And part of what I am doing also is working with the legislature to come up with more ideas and more supports. Golden State Teachers Grant was one. We can expand on that. There are more ideas we can use. We can use more internships, other ways for students to get paid while they do this. Also, I think, classrooms are getting increasingly complex. So I think that we need more tools in the educator preparation program to help with mental health services, social emotional issues that face students, our current TK-12 students, and to be fair, our educator preparation candidates. And that, we need to focus on embedding more culturally responsive pedagogy, trauma-informed practices, and data literate decision-making. I think those are the biggest issues. And then finally, educator preparation programs have to keep pace with this evolving policy of demands. And part of the challenge, I think, in that is that we sit in a political system, meaning that the legislature makes decisions. And then the commission is unfortunately the middle manager there, right? And having to process these decisions and make them workable for our system. But then down at the EPP level, people have to react and put these practices into place in a way that makes logical sense. And so that is an ongoing challenge.
Thank you. And last, is there anything else you would like to add that you think would be important for us to know as we consider your application for the COA?
I think that for me personally, I think my background and extensive background in policy and in accreditation, I have been working in this in over 8 years. And my background in public schools and working with the stakeholders helps bring a sort of unique framework. And just so that you know, my favorite words are collaborate. So I love to collaborate and learn from and work with other people. And so being a member of a commission like this, I think would be great for us and to bring, for me to be able to learn and grow, but also to learn from my peers in the field.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you.
You too. Thank you.
We will be in touch soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Next candidate is scheduled for 2:50. And then.
What minutes to breathe, or should we just keep? She's not, well, he's not.
Can you stand up? Do we have to stay on?
Good stretch.
Step away from your camera so they don't get my.
Great. Good afternoon, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you very well, thank you.
Excellent. Well, I'm Commissioner Shireen Pavri, and my colleague here is Commissioner Danette Brown. And we have 5 questions for you. I'll go ahead and ask you the first couple of questions, and then she'll ask you.
Sounds great.
Have questions before we begin?
Nope.
Excellent. All righty. So if you would please describe briefly your professional experiences in education and educator preparation in California. We're interested in your teaching experiences, your work with diverse K-12 students and or credential candidates, and any issues that you are especially focused on in your.
So I've been working with diverse K-12 and higher ed students in California for the last 25 years. That work really started in 2000 when I was an embedded researcher and evaluator in a highly diverse community in San Diego Unified, where I worked with an elementary, a middle, and a high school feeder pattern in a bit of a teaching hospital kind of model for the School of Ed at San Diego State. And I worked there on issues from supporting student needs through program innovation to doing in-service teacher professional development and working with administrators. So I really got to know schools and schooling from the outside, having never been a credentialed K-12 teacher. So I spent 12 years doing that and really loved it. And from there, moved into doctoral work where I studied diversity and retention among freshmen and transfer students coming into a large public university in California, and continued to work in City Heights during that time. So I was looking both at what was happening in K-12 schools and what was happening for learners of diverse backgrounds in higher ed at the same time. Finished that work and worked on some other projects. And then 6 years ago, landed at Point Loma Nazarene University in my current role, where I serve as the Associate Dean of Assessment and Accreditation and teach research methods courses to students that are finishing up their master's degrees in all of our various educator preparation programs. And that work really taps into what I learned early on in City Heights and also in my doctoral work, where kind of the through line really is about thinking about diversity and success for students from diverse backgrounds. I use a method called WISE feedback in my classrooms, which focuses on welcoming students' kind of whole persona into my classroom setting to break down ideas of stereotype threat that they might be bringing in to classrooms that have statistics and that look at academic writing in ways that's very different than most of their educator preparation program where they're learning not to necessarily draw deeply on academic literature, but to really do applied work. And so I do that bias feedback in a way to embrace diversity in my classes, model for my students what I hope that they model in their education settings, and hopefully help them be successful and be their best versions of themselves in their classes.
Thank you. If you could please summarize your involvement with the Commission's accreditation system first, and second, any other accreditation entities that you may have worked with, such as WASC or PEEP or AQUEP or any other professional organization.
Sure. As I noted, I've been here at Point Loma Nazarene for this is my 7th year, and I have led the School of Education through an entire accreditation cycle in that time. It was my first foray into a role like this, and the learning curve was really, really steep. I began about a year before we entered into preconditions the first time, and that was a very iterative process. We left with, I think we had 3 cycles of feedback and response on that preconditions, and then led the team all the way through Common Standards program review and exited that program review the first time with stipulations and a revisit, and had to kind of come to terms with how much I had to learn as the leader of that process, but also how much we had opportunities to improve as a school of education. And so it was, me learning and leading and our unit growing through the process. So I'm really focused on cultivating a culture of continuous improvement. And I think I've been really successful and happy with that. Beyond the program review cycle, I also led our recent SB 488 literacy certification response, and just recently finished an IPR, which is in the pipeline now for a CTEL CLAD program. So I guess that would mean that I've done program review and certification for literacy, and now an initial program review. And then yeah, recently we brought in the credential analysts team to fold into my office. So though that's not necessarily part of the accreditation role, it is certainly another layer of interaction with the CTC. So kind of coming to understand all of that as well. In terms of other accrediting bodies that I've been.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question?
Sure.
So when you were talking about, have you been on the reviewer side as well? Or you talked about.
Yes, I have. Thank you for pushing me on that. I'm BIR certified and have served on program review as well. So that was in 2022 and in 2023.
Please keep going.
Sure.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no, that was great. Beyond that, let's see. I have been part of a WASC visit on the K-12 side, having participated in the writing and development of reporting for the K-12 entity, but never led it. I was just kind of one of the people that was on the team. But that really helps me have an idea about what I was getting into when I came to Point Loma. And then since I've been at Point Loma, I'm also part of the WASC UC reporting process that the university engages in. Again, not leading it, but kind of doing the reporting and analysis from my School of Ed seat and contributing to the larger body. Beyond that, I've done work in looking at national accreditation on CAPE and APWEP sides, and looking at how we might prepare for that in the next accreditation cycle so that we could go dual national and state when we enter in with our peers in the red cohort. But I haven't led anything for either of those efforts.
Thank you.
Okay, I have the next question. As a prospective member of the Committee on Accreditation, what do you think are the most important things to look for in making an accreditation decision for an educator preparation program? And what would be your approach to making those decisions?
So I think this is a pretty great question. And I think that the most important thing that I would look for in that process is recognizing the expertise and time and energy that have been put into the report that would be brought before me as a member or a prospective member of the COA, and recognizing that the people that started that process and might have areas of expertise that I certainly wouldn't have. And so leaning heavily into their recommendation, I think would be where I would begin. From there, then I would turn to what my own experience has taught me and what I can learn in relation to things that might pop up as red or yellow flags, or certainly things that are called for by the individual program review teams. All of that I would run through the lens of student safety first, making sure that California students are safe is the most important thing. And then beyond that, looking at opportunities for continuous improvement and kind of iterations of that work, recognizing that any program going through program review is going to end up having opportunities to improve, and that my role is to number one, make sure that students in those programs are being served safely to the standards that we can expect them to be upholding, and that process is not necessarily meant to be a gotcha process, except for when it comes to safety. And that what we want to do is cultivate, a community and a culture of continuous improvement.
Next question. What do you think is the most important issue facing educator preparation today in 2025, and why?
think that this issue has got to be meeting the needs of our diverse population. And it's a supply and demand thing from my point of view. We are, in the midst of an extended teacher shortage that looks different in different places across the state. And this creates a number of challenges for us as a community of educator preparers. From my point of view, Point Loma serves students all across, prepares students all across the state. But we have about 80 to 90% of our students that are on intern contracts that are located in one area. And what that does is that means that we have to draw resources to support those specific students to ensure that despite being on an intern contract, as generally they see it as a great thing, we see it as a draw on our resources in order to make sure that they're meeting standards and that they're supported the way that we are authorized to support them on those intern credentials. And so it's a challenge. And another example that I might use to support this supply and demand issue is I mentioned that I recently went through developing an IPR for another one of our programs. And that process prompted me to look at the teacher supply data from the state. And I was shocked to see that within the areas that we're intending this new program to support, the number of teachers that are coming in on a new cloud credential or certificate was like about 20% of the number of teachers that were working on a temporary or emergency credential in those areas. And that was, for me, just another example of how important creating new pathways for entering into the field is for candidates, and making sure that we're looking to leverage the things that we can leverage, like our dramatically improving assessment system, not just for accountability, but for improving teaching and learning and making sure that we can use it to get better at the things that we're trying to do.
Yeah. Last question. Is there anything else you would like to add that you think would be important for us to know as we consider your application for the COA?
Yeah, I think that I would just really offer that I'm hopeful to be of service. I think that I have a broad set of skills related to data literacy and collaboration, and would really look to bring that into the COA as a member. I recognize that I have lots of opportunities to learn more, and that I am very comfortable in saying I don't know, but I probably know where to find that answer, and would look to my colleagues, and certainly, as I mentioned, lean on those that have brought the information before me and their recommendations. I truly, truly believe in the process of accreditation for continuous improvement, and I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to be a part of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael. We will be in touch soon.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Afternoon, David. Nice to meet you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm Commissioner Shireen Parvri, and my colleague here joining me is Commissioner. We have 5 questions for you. Just go ahead and I'll ask you the first couple, and then Commissioner Brown.
Great, thanks.
You've got the questions as well?
Yes.
Wonderful, good. All right. Do you have any questions for us before we get started?
No, just thanks for the opportunity to share my thoughts and to be considered.
Wonderful. So our first question, if you would please briefly summarize your professional experiences in education and educator preparation in California. We're interested in your teaching experiences, your work with diverse K-12 students and or credential candidates, and issues that you are especially focused on in your work.
So I started out as a high school social studies, physical education teacher, coach, was a teacher for 18 years at about 3 different high schools. I then became a high school administrator, a high school principal. From there, I was an assistant superintendent of human resources in the Yuba City Unified School District, where when we talk about diversity and culture, race, religion, education, we were feeding families on Fridays so they get through the weekend. And so it was a great experience there and very impactful. Currently, for the last 9 years, I've been the director of, I've had various titles over the last 9 years at Jessup University in Rockland, just above Sacramento. But my current role is I'm the director of teacher education. I'm also the field experience coordinator. I'm also the teacher performance assessment coordinator. It's a smaller university, and so I have many hats, which has really given me a great experience. I'm also the point person really for all accreditation in our School of Education. I was hired as the field experience coordinator and the teacher performance assessment coordinator, directly dealing with student teachers. I teach student teaching seminar course. I coach, since I've been here, I coach our candidates through the teacher performance assessments. We use Cal TPA. That really is the TPA I signed up as a field experience coordinator, teacher performance assessment coordinator. We had a point person who was doing a lot of accreditation work when I first got here. And in August of my second year, that point person left and took another job. So my dean of School of Education called me and said, we need somebody to take over accreditation. Our visit was that February. And so I had a fast course in accreditation, and we had a very successful visit, but certainly planning and coordinating all the meetings required, getting community folks here when they needed to be here, and past candidates, graduates, that kind of thing. So it was quite an undertaking, but it went well, and so I've kind of been heavily involved in accreditation since then. As the TPA coordinator right now, I oversee student teachers. Certainly we're invested in universal design for learning. We're invested in recognizing personal and institutional bias. And we focus on strategies in the classroom that address equity, inclusion, and diversity. I was out visiting a student teacher the other day, and they were reading a story, and the story included a line about a pool house, that this house had a pool house. And the student asked, what's a pool house? And the student teacher responded, well, it's kind of like a mother-in-law quarters. And so after the lesson, we had a little debrief about, okay, how did we choose this curriculum? How did we check for prior knowledge? Did we think about student assets? And so it was a fun conversation, and they soaked it up like a sponge, said, yeah, we need to change our practices. So it was a interesting and educational day for us both. That's really what I'm doing right now, and what I've done in the past. I actually, the next question, I think we'll get into the accreditation work that I've done.
So let me jump into the next question then. So if you would summarize your involvement with the Commission's accreditation system and also any other accreditation entities such as WASC or CAPE, AQUEP, other professional associations.
Sure. So as a high school teacher, we had regular WASC visits. And so as a teacher, I supported our school, certainly helping write the report, getting documentation for a visit to make sure that we could confirm from what we're saying in the report that we're actually doing and showing evidence. As a high school principal, overseeing the same process and developing a team to create the WASC report and coordinate the visit. At Jessup, overseeing our accreditation process, working with the common standards, with program standards, with preconditions. Been totally invested in that work. Looking at field experience coordinator work, looking at TPA work, confirming, that we have processes and procedures in place that ensure, we're meeting state standards, and that we're effectively, training teachers. We started at Jessup with a multiple subject integrated program and a multiple subject Masters of Arts in Teaching program, which the MAT also included single subject programs. We've added additional single subjects. In the last years, we've added an administrative credential to our menu of offerings. We're now working on our PK3 submission. And so I've been involved in writing those programs and going through the initial program review process. I've volunteered with Rosemary Wren to review other PK3 submissions. I was also a part of the Board of Institutional Review. I can tell you, I've had very little activity for some reason, and so I'm surprised I haven't been more involved.
Carol, take note.
I am. Don't worry, I am.
So maybe I shouldn't have said that. But anyway, so that's kind of the work that I've done in a nutshell.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I have the next question for you. As a prospective member of the Committee on Accreditation, what do you think are the most important things to look for in making an accreditation decision for an educator preparation program? What would be your approach to making those decisions?
Yeah. We're standards driven, California standards for the teacher performance expectations, content standards, English language learner requirements, diversity, equity, and inclusion principles. So just looking at those standards, and does the program meet those standards and the with fidelity? Are candidates coming out of the program competent? Are they passing Cal TPA exams? Is there evidence of reflective practice? Are there quality clinical practice opportunities? Do candidates have real world teaching opportunities within the program? Are they serious about continuous improvement in the process there? And so, looking at all the components of accreditation, faculty qualifications and support, and really even the institutional capacity, and being an advocate for the particular program within their own institution. I've always appreciated our visiting committees doing that with us. As far as making decisions, I'm a collaborative person. I do think our decisions need to be evidence-based, from self-reports to site visits to candidate and stakeholder feedback, performance data, looking for patterns and consistency and alignment really with standards, is important. Asking clarifying questions, not assuming things, and making sure that there's no bias. And then really from there, I would hope that we're looking at the program on an equity lens, being transparent and fair as a committee member, and then the feedback to programs, making sure that it's constructive and actionable, so that they can go back and be clear about the work that needs to be done to improve the program.
Thank you. Next question. What do you think is the most important issue facing educator preparation today in 2025, and why?
Yeah, I caught the last little minute of Michael's interview, and mine really echoes him. Is just the critical issue of recruiting and retaining qualified teachers. I was a high school principal. I was an assistant superintendent of human resources. I would go to fairs, and if there was a math or special ed person, I would tackle them, say, please come to Yuba City. And so certainly that's our biggest issue. We've tried to remedy that with grants and with programs, and we've had some success, but there's still way too many people, way too many of our children being educated by long-term subs who may not be the most effective at delivering lessons, long-term or short-term subs. And then really, I oversee students, and sometimes they'll get hired on a short-term staff permit. They jump into a classroom really before and some of them flourish and they're wonderful. Others of them really struggle. It takes them 2 or 3 years, and I worry are very concerned about them and their longevity because they jump into the deep end too fast. But there's such a need that just happens with districts, and I understand why districts need to do that. I think that's the biggest issue that I see.
Thank you. And lastly, is there anything else you would like to add that you think would be important for us to know as we consider your application for the COA?
So a couple of weeks ago, I went into my, very little, but I'll tell you this. A couple of weeks ago, I went into my dean and I said, been doing accreditation work for quite a while, and we've done a lot lately with literacy certification and preparing a PK3 program. So we've been doing quite a lot, and I just told them, I feel confident in what I'm doing, but I said I need to become great at accreditation. So it just rolls out of our university and out of our program. And so I said, I need to do that. I need to become great at it, or I need to get out of it and let somebody else do it. And so the next day I saw this application to potentially be on the accreditation committee. And I thought, well, selfishly, I'm here to learn. And so I want to do that. But the flip side of that is my best reason for wanting to serve really is to ensure a quality education for every child in California. And I think that's all of our goals, and always has been. As I recruit teachers, hire teachers, release teachers, and step into now a potential committee on accreditation where students are still on my mind.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you, and really appreciate your time and your joining us and your interest in this position. So we will be in touch soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys want to take a break? Okay. We will take a break and come back 3:30. Our candidate.
Oh,
Okay.
thanks. Hey, good afternoon, Connie. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm well, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Commissioner Shireen Bavri, and I'm joined by my colleague, Commissioner Danette Brown. And we have 5 questions for you today. I'll go ahead and ask you the first couple of questions, and then she'll ask you the rest. Do you have, and I believe you have the questions as well, yes?
Yes, I did receive those, thank you.
Wonderful, good. Do you have any questions for us before we get started?
I don't actually, I'm ready for you.
Excellent, all righty. So if you would please briefly describe your professional experiences in education and educator preparation in California. And we're interested specifically in your teaching experiences, your work with diverse K-12 students or credential candidates, and any issues that you're especially focused on in your work.
Sure, I've been an educator now for over 30 years. I was a bilingual classroom teacher, started off there, and a reading specialist. Then an induction director for a 6-district consortium in the southern region of California. And then after that, I became a site principal for one of those 6 districts I was working with in induction. And that was in a very diverse elementary school. And all of that spans about 20 years. And then I went to the university where I spent 11 years full-time as a tenured professor and associate dean in the School of Education. where I implemented the first teaching performance assessments back in like 2007 or so. And I collaborated there on building multiple credential programs and submissions to the commission. I advised many credential candidates along the way. So from there, I spent 6 years at the San Diego County Office of Education. And there I built intern credential programs and authorizations for special education primarily, and submitting all of those to the commission for approval. Those included the New Literacy Standard 7, the PK3 credential, and certainly working with TPAs with all of those candidates, shepherding them through their programs. And my last year there at the county office in San Diego, I transitioned to working with the statewide Residency Technical Assistance Center. I'm sure you're aware, SRTAC, where I was the lead for residency program support for the Southern region. But then 1 year later, 1 year into that effort, there was an opportunity to work for the LEA on that grant, which is Santa Clara County Office of Education. So I've been there now since August. And so that's where I currently serve. So my primary focus currently is educator recruitment, educator training, and ways to retain those educators. And we do that by assisting LEAs and their IHE partners to offer that educator preparation together as a collaborative, where the coursework and the clinical practice is really closely aligned. So educators become really seeped in the community during their year-long clinical practice. And that prepares them to become employed where they have learned and practiced for a year. So they're ready to serve the very first day as a new teacher. So that's what I've been doing.
All right. If you would please summarize your involvement with the Commission's accreditation system, and then also any other accreditation entities such as such as WASC or EQUIP or CAPE or other professional associations.
Sure. My involvement with the Commission's accreditation system began probably when I got into induction, which was bits of course back then in the early 2000s. I've been a program reviewer quite consistently since then, as well as the lead reviewer on multiple site visits. And then as university faculty, I also experienced 2 cycles of our own institution's review, and one of those did include a CAPE visit. So I've been through training on all of those standards as well. And our visit resulted in national accreditation for our university. And I also participated as a program reviewer in one CAPE CTC combined visit. That was really interesting. Regarding WASC, while working at the university full-time, I was a lead on our WASC visit. So, you know, we were not just a credential program, we were an entire, you know, BA program as well. So that included preparation for the visit as a lead for my own unit and working with other units to facilitate their preparation. I think School of Ed folks are, they're so equipped to do this type of thing. So across the university, I think people in the School of Ed are well utilized during WASC. And I've also consulted for a few private schools in preparation for their own WASC visits. Yeah, so that probably summarizes my involvement with accreditation activities.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I have the next question for you. As a prospective member of the Committee on Accreditation, what do you think are the most important things to look for in making an accreditation decision for an educator preparation program? And what would be your approach to making these decisions?
Well, first of all, the collegial approach to this process is something I honor and appreciate very much. Through the process of reviewing other programs and being reviewed, certainly the California content standards, the teaching performance expectations, you know, you need to know those quite well, the California standards for the teaching profession and program standards for each of the credential areas being reviewed. Those are all baseline considerations. Also, the program's interest and efforts for continuous improvement, I believe, are very important. And I'm also assured that program standards can be met in multiple ways. So that is really my approach, is that I just believe in looking at quality outcomes more so than the methodologies of how they got there, as long as the standards are addressed, of course. I just believe we need to look at each program as its own unique entity without bias. And that's because the capacity for programs, uniqueness and creativity and innovative ways of doing things is just endless. So my approach is to be open-minded and curious when reviewing program submissions, And I'd say my approach is also grounded in my experience that triangulating data from multiple sources is very important, as are the positive outcomes that results from an institution's programming. So my approach for making accreditation decisions is aligning data from multiple sources, focusing on program outputs and outcomes, and then doing so as a team with other professionals. I also keep in mind that our decisions are high stakes because we're in an extremely important field as educators. So that's, I think, how I would approach it.
What do you think is the most important issue facing educator preparation today in 2025 and why?
Well, over time, I've certainly watched the numbers decline in educator preparation. I believe that recruitment to the workforce is more difficult than it's ever been in my career, and the reasons for that are plentiful. I think social perception has a lot to do with that, but I also think schools and classrooms are becoming more complex. Students come from a wide range of ethnicities, skill sets, socioeconomic backgrounds. So I believe recruitment of a new generation to the workforce is critical. And we need to staff our schools with teachers who are themselves culturally aware, tech savvy, flexible and creative, because we operate sometimes in an under-resourced environment. And our educator preparation programs partnered with our school systems are, to me, the conduit to that recruitment.
Thank you. And lastly, is there anything else you would like us to consider as, let me start that again. Is there anything else you would like to add that you think would be important for us to, as we consider your application to the COA?
Sure. I mean, I'll just add that I served and currently serve in both K-12 and higher education roles for all these years. And I believe that does bring a 360-degree perspective to the accreditation process. Also should share that I understand the necessity for programs to be unique from one another based on who the institution is serving and their variety of needs, and as well as who those candidates will be serving as educators. So I think that's why programs need to be unique. And likely important to add is that I do enjoy working as a team and hearing other perspectives and collaborating to make decisions and to reach consensus and to reach common goal. So yeah, thanks for asking that. I'm kind of a concise, quick speaker, so I know I didn't take much time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciated meeting you and, hearing your perspective on rapid but rich responses. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time and take good care.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye.
Kennedy?
Sure.
Dion.
Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm Commissioner Shireen Pavri, and I'm joined by my colleague, Commissioner Danette Brown. And we have 5 questions to ask you. I will ask you the first couple of questions, then she'll ask the rest. And I believe you have the questions as well, yes?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Wonderful, good. Do you have any questions for us before we get started?
No, I don't.
Alrighty. So if you would please briefly summarize your professional experiences in education and educator preparation in California. We're interested in your teaching experiences, your work with diverse K-12 students or credential candidates, and any issues that you're especially focused on in your work.
Yes. So, I immigrated to the United States when I was 15, and I became a teacher after attending Cal State University and getting a degree in social science. I came back to my high school, my alma mater, to teach students history, but also English as a second language. And it was, joy of my life, being able to see myself in those students and help them succeed and hopefully, mentor them also as they went along. I also have two master's degrees from a private university, one in technology and another one in educational leadership. I have a single subject credential and an admin credential, and I have an authorization to teach bilingual students as well. I was a teacher for about 10 years, and then I decided to become an administrator at a predominantly Hispanic school. We were about 95% Hispanic students. So another great opportunity for me to be a great role model for my students. Um, I also now have the privilege to then assist teachers in the prep program and in the teacher support world. I'm a program coordinator for the Center for Teacher Innovation in Riverside County. Um, and it's a great privilege now to kind of like see myself as a person who can then pay it forward for other educators who are also trying to go back to their communities and teach students like themselves.
If you would summarize your involvement with the Commission's accrediting system, and also any other accreditation entities that you may have been involved with, WASC, KEEP, WEB, or any other professional accreditation?
Sure. In Riverside County, we have a credentialing accreditation steering committee, and I'm part of it, where we do book studies and we continuously analyze data for continuous improvement. So I also participated in program review training and participated in a program review. I was also scheduled to do the VIR training about a year ago, but it was paused, and I'm scheduled to resume my VIR training as soon as it resumes in June, I believe. So I'm already signed up to get that training. And then as a school administrator, I also participate in many WASC committee visits where I help my school prepare for the WASC visit. And I also was trained and participated in a WASC site visit as part of the visiting committee.
So Jorge, if I may ask, so you talked about the program review. Can you speak a little bit more to the type of program review that you've been engaged in?
So they called out part one of the training. So I did part one and we do a program review. This is before the site visit. So the site visit is part two of the training. And I think I was scheduled to do it in last year, like around January. And they said that they had, I think, funding issues, and maybe they wanted to give institutions also a time to adapt to the new standards. So they decided to take a pause and resume this summer.
I have the next question for you. As a prospective member of the Committee on Accreditation, what do you think are the most important things to look for in making an accreditation decision for an educator preparation program? And what would be your approach to making those decisions?
So I think the most important thing is to be objective. There are different ways in which our programs serve the communities in which they exist. And I think the most important thing is to be also curious, because there's different ways of, meeting the standards, the common standards, the preconditions, and the program standards. So it's always important to put away any biases that you may have from your experience. And as you're reading their narrative and understanding their story, it's also important to be able to make sure that matches the data they're collecting and the success that they're having as they prepare educators. So it's important to make sure that they also have data and evidence to match their narrative. It's also important for them to be committed to continuous improvement, because it's part of the cycle, right? It's part of the 7 years to continuously be better at what we do and provide the best service possible for the teachers that we serve. So even though it might be, different, from program to program, I think, once again, as long as they're meeting the preconditions, the common standards, and the program standards, I think, we can allow for that diversity of, ways in which can serve our educators, as long as, we're providing the best service possible.
Okay, thank you. And what do you think is the most important issue facing educator preparation today in 2025, and why?
I think unfortunately, it continues to be equity. And the reason why is actually there's many reasons. The first one, post-pandemic, we know that there's a learning gap, and our students and our teachers too are dealing with the consequences of, the learning loss that happened during the pandemic. Then there's also now, with the advent of artificial intelligence, there's a technology gap, and I think is caused by the inequity in access to technology devices and also internet. And then the advent of technology and COVID and all that has also brought to light now issues with self-care and well-being. But the problem, I think, is that as we look into teacher wellness and student wellness, I think a lot of our students and teachers in the areas that need it the most lack those resources and access to those resources. So it becomes an equity issue. Nowadays, in 2025, we're facing threats to funding that threaten those programs as well. And I think, with possible budget constraints that are coming down our way, disruptions to the educational day that are happening in our schools, especially when it comes to attendance and our students being afraid to attend school. I think like now more than ever, I think equity is the biggest problems that we're facing here in our state.
Thank you. And lastly, is there anything you would like to add that you think would be important for us to know as we consider your application for the COA?
Yes, well, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. As I said in the beginning, as a person who immigrated to the United States as an adolescent, 15 years old, learning a new language, being able to graduate college, I think, like I said, coming full circle now and being part of the COA and helping forge the new generation of educators, I think it will be a dream come true. And I just want to thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and your responses to our questions. So thank you again. Take good care.
Thank you.
We're done with all the input blocks. Yes, yeah. So maybe we can get a few minutes to process and then we can discuss.
It's your call.
Thank you. Okay, so we've carefully reviewed everybody's applications, the selection criteria, and really appreciated the interviews. I think we've got incredible candidates. And honestly, I would feel comfortable with any of them and all of them being on the committee on accreditation. So I think we have some difficult decisions to make here. So I'm wondering maybe we can start with the PK-12 candidates first. The vacancies on the accreditation. Brown is there. Would you, maybe we can start with Connie Campbell? Your thoughts?
I agree with your statement previously that we are in a wonderful predicament of having so many qualified candidates. I appreciated Ms. Campbell's experience with 30+ years as an educator, a principal, in a variety of positions. I also appreciated her talking about a collegial approach and being curious and open-minded while at the same time triangulating the data, which is important. I did appreciate while her answers were brief, she got to the point. And I did also appreciate her explanation about how we need to meet the standards, but we also need to make space for, programs to individualize or be unique. So I think that was, an important concept. And also her saying that she believes in a collaborative approach, but in order to get to consensus. So I thought that was a strength of Ms. Campbell.
Wonderful. So again, speaking about Miss Campbell, she has deep, rich experiences with really, first of all, as she mentioned, bringing the 360-degree perspective, multiple years of experiences both in PK-12 as well as in higher education, and now supporting teacher preparation writ large through the County Office of Education. Like you, I also was struck by her comment about, focus on quality outcomes while giving room for the uniqueness of programs to arrive at those quality outcomes using different paths. So I thought that was definitely noteworthy. She's done work really pre-service, induction, residencies, all of the pathways to educator preparation. Yeah. Lots of rich experiences. Maybe we can speak about our next candidate, Jorge Alvarez.
I think first and foremost, I was just moved by his story. It can't be easy moving to a new country and not knowing the language when you're 15. And also I was moved by his commitment to his community and going back to serve at the high school where he attended. And I admire his desire to be, what he said, a role model for his students. I also think that he definitely showed an interest in accreditation with, being in the Riverside County Office of Ed group that does book studies, beyond just the trainings that are offered, but really digging deeper into what accreditation is and looks like. He has participated in WASC visits. And I do love that he said multiple times, and that training's coming in June. I'm going to do part 2.
That's right.
I think that I also appreciated his answer to question number 3 when he said, it's important to be objective. It's important to be curious about the different ways of meeting the standards, collecting data. He also spoke about leaving space for innovation as well. I think what I was impressed by is his experience, both having his degree in technology, but how he was able to talk about challenges of inequity in access and bringing up AI and the technology gap and speaking to lack of resources and just how sometimes that can be exacerbated in certain communities. I thought that was important as we, as an education community, are really embracing and afraid of AI at the same time. So that's really, I think, a timely area to focus on. And I did appreciate his closing comment about forging a new generation of educators to be prepared for, the future of what students are, what schools are, and being open to that about new.
Wonderful. I absolutely agree with everything you've said. I think he really brings a lived experience that reflects that of the young people that across our state. He's clearly a role model to so many. He brings, again, rich experiences, even with teacher professional development. I think we're in this difficult place now, having to choose one of the 2 candidates since we have 1 vacancy in the PK-12 area. I wanted to point out a couple of things. So as I look at the current roster, while we have folk from, different backgrounds and the different criteria, we do have somebody else, Alan Hollis is an administrator in the Riverside County Office of Education.
That's correct.
And Dr. Alvarez is also from the Riverside County Office of Education. So that was one consideration that I wanted to point out. And the other is, I think as soon as he gets under his belt some BIR training and some more experience with conducting CTC reviews, I think I would highly encourage him to, I mean, in my mind, serve on the Committee on Accreditation at that point. I don't, Commissioner Brown, what you're thinking?
I would never discourage anyone from getting more experience and saying yes to all the trainings that are possible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do we have a motion then to who do we, because of the two reasons that I identified, having someone else from Riverside County Office of Ed, as well as the need for, I mean, in my mind, someone who's had prior experiences conducting CTC reviews and having done BIR training. I might nominate Connie Campbell this position.
I have a clarifying question. Are we able to, in the motion, say the person and also include a suggestion for an alternate, or would it be cleaner to have two separate motions? Either or? Okay.
Please.
So I would like to move that we appoint Connie Campbell to the COA and Jorge Alvarez as a recommendation for an alternate.
I second that motion wholeheartedly. Yeah. We don't need to vote, do we?
Oh, no, because we just.
Have to officially vote?
Yes.
Just
to be sure.
Okay, go ahead. So we have a motion to nominate Connie Campbell and as the COA representative for PK-12 and Jorge Alvarez as the alternate for that same position. Oh, I have to say, all those in favor say
Aye.
aye. Yes. Anyone opposed? Our alter egos? Motion carries. Okay, motion carries. Okay, so now we move on to the higher education. And I really do want to commend everyone who's stepped up to do this volunteer service. It's an incredible service to the field, to educator preparation in California. And really, this is an incredibly difficult decision for us to make because everyone is incredibly committed and qualified. So with that, we move to the higher education, where we have 4 representatives for 2 openings. And as Ms. Hickey informed us earlier, we again do have representation on across the state already. We do have representation based on gender and such variables. So maybe we can speak to each of the candidates again. We can start with Jessica Bogunovich.
Would you like to go first this time?
I am happy to go first this time.
Your camera.
Oh, sorry.
Easier. Vouch. Okay. So, Ms. Bogunovich, Dr. Bogunovich, I think really what I was struck by was the really, again, rich and deep experiences that she has had on multiple dimensions. Again, like all of our 4 candidates, really can step into either role because they've had deep experiences, most of them in PK-12 as well as in higher education. She seems to have done a lot of work with CTC, with BIR, with leading CTC and BIR site review teams. She says she's been doing at least 2 annually for many, many years now. And has also been the lead on AQUEB. So really has, I think, a deep understanding of accreditation, besides, of course, from her role. She's very familiar with TPA, done TPA assessments, has experiences with WASC. She also, in her CV, does speak to the scholarly contributions, which is another criteria for our review. Has lots of deep length of professional service. Yes, please do.
Oh, yes,
Please do.
I agree 100%. I really appreciate her vast experience as a K-12 educator. And then someone who worked at the district level, has done PD and then went to higher ed. Like she just has such a rich experience in all of these different for many years. It wasn't just a couple of years of doing this. You know, she has been in education for 25 plus years, and she was for 15 years serving in a K-12 capacity. And then in 13 years doing is a higher ed role. So I feel like she's had substantial experience in all of them. And I agree with everything you said, so I won't say it again. The other thing that I really did put a little star by was in her conclusion, she was talking about how she has the support from her institution, because we know that this takes a lot of time and commitment. And so I think that's important, important to note.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good. Shall we discuss Michelle Holding as our next candidate? Like me to go first?
Sure, you could go 2 times and then I'll go
Okay.
2 times.
Okay, sounds great. So I found her extremely articulate and knowledgeable, and not that the others are not, but specifically around educational policy, how accreditation ties in, speaking to how that is part of even the program structure that she leads. She also has, again, experiences across that 360-degree span that we discussed earlier. She is also doing research around educator preparation and implications. She has experiences with WASC, with CAPE, and now AQUEP, along with CTC, has BIR training and has done reviews. Spoke to, again, the iterative process, the importance of fairness and consistency, the importance of being student-centered in the accreditation process. So yeah, I was very impressed by her.
I was as well. 2 additional comments that she made that really stood out to me for 2 different reasons is she talked about the importance of making the process clear and accessible. And I think sometimes in not just accreditation, but in our education business, we often hear from people that it's complicated. And I think for people going through accreditation, it can be stressful, right? And I think as much as we can make that process clear and accessible, that's really important. So I really appreciated that comment. And then the other, she mentioned also how we support non-traditional candidates. And I think as we explore, diversifying the workforce and what supports non-traditional candidates might need, and also how we can also parlay that into supporting complex classrooms, meeting the needs of a diverse student population as well. So I did appreciate her mention of that as well.
So our next candidate, Michael Fork, would you like to?
He has 25 years experience. I did appreciate that he has extensively studied diversity from the university perspective. Also, he studies like research methods and studies success for students from diverse backgrounds. I did appreciate also his honesty in saying that he led his institution through accreditation, and boy, was it a steep learning curve. And so I did appreciate that although he's had limited experience, he talked about the value of learning by going through it. And what he's working on now with the SB 488 literary response. He is BIR certified and has participated as a team member in WASC. And I did appreciate that he's been looking at the CAPE and AQUEP websites, to find out more about those bodies. So.
Right. Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add, and that's something, that you did mention, but I really did appreciate is talking about learning from the stipulations and the revisit that their campus had to go through. So yeah, I think you learn the most when you have to, fix something as opposed to being successful the first time. So he probably really did. Yeah, the perseverance and the deeper learning on that front. So maybe we can speak to our last candidate, David Bills.
Oh, sure, thank you. I appreciate that he's had experience as a teacher, as a high school social science and a coach. He's been a high school principal. He's had a variety of experiences. He did mention that he was the point person for accreditation for his university. He did have experience when he was at high school going through the WASC accreditation. He did put out his advertisement that he is BIR, but he hasn't had much activity. So I appreciate him letting us know that. I did appreciate also that he's talking about preparing the PK3 program and going through that initial program review from that perspective. He did mention the importance of reflective practice and actionable feedback and not making assumptions. And he also mentioned that he wants to learn.
Yeah, and clearly, picking up on the theme of wants to learn, he talked about, either become great or get out. And I really did appreciate that. He's here because there's so much to learn and contribute. So I think, again, we have amazing candidates. We have to pick 2 out of the 4. I think some may have had more experience with CTC accreditation and national accreditation than some of the others. So that's just one criteria that's going through my mind as we try to, identify which 2 of the 4 to appoint. So maybe we can go one by one and nominate our first person. Yeah. You have someone in mind?
Yes.
Make a motion.
Okay, so I would like to nominate Jessica Bugunovich, but my apologies, Dr. Bugunovich, to the COA.
Wonderful. I second the nomination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? So that motion carries. So we're appointing Dr. Jessica Bugunovich as one of the 2 higher education representatives. And would you like to make?
I would like to move that we appoint Michelle Hall to the COA, or recommend that we appoint Michelle Hall to the COA.
And I second that as well. So all in favor, motion first before we vote. So we're moving to nominate Michelle Hall as our second higher education representative on the COA. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, motion carries. Would we like to nominate either one, or either Michael Cork or David Bills, or both of them as alternates?
May I ask a question? Because I noticed that Dr. Michael Cork is in the table on page 1A2. So does that mean that he is an alternate?
He is currently an alternate, yes.
Oh, so he's currently an alternate. So
He could remain on the alternate list.
Okay.
So we don't have to nominate or recommend that he be an alternate. He just already is.
He's already an alternate And he's available through 2028. I think if you were to, I'm just thinking this through at the moment, if you were to sort of renominate him, he would get another year, 2020 availability if you wanted to that way. I don't think we have any rules about that. This is an unusual situation, so trying to think it through. But yes, he's already on the alternate list at the moment.
Okay, well, I would like to make a motion. I move that we recommend Michael Cork and David Bills to serve as alternates on the COA.
I second the nomination. All
May
those,
I speak to my
please
motion?
go ahead.
Both of them expressed in their interview that they really want to learn and they want to get good at it. And I think being an alternate is a fantastic way to understand and get practice at the work of the COA.
Wonderful. All right. So all those in favor of the motion to have both of them serve as alternates, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So that motion carries as well. Okay, we conclude our business. Anything else?
So this will be presented to the full commission on Friday morning.
That's right.
2H.
Commission item 2H on Friday, at which time the commission will vote on whether to appoint those individuals who've been recommended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So adjourning?
Oh, we're gonna adjourn.
Yes. There you go.
No, you.
You get to use the gavel.